Okay, we're getting close to the start of the meeting here. I see Dave's here with us, which means you must still be here. When do you go to Florida, Dave? Got to unmute yourself. You still have to unmute yourself. All right, well.
Don't plan on going to Florida this winter.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
we're going to stay here. We're going to stay here in the cold country.
Oh, that probably means we're going to get 4 feet of snow this winter.
Hey, don't say that. Don't say that.
Don't worry, I bought a snowblower, so it's not gonna happen.
No, you're right.
That's about right. We upgraded our snowblower a couple of years ago, and I think we had one storm of like 4 inches, and then the following year is when we got hammered and we put it to good use. And it's nice because it'll throw wet snow 40 feet like it's nothing, or which used to clog our old snowblower. And there's Tim from East Long Meadow. We haven't heard you in a while, Tim. And you're muted also. You're still muted.
Okay, how's that?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, we're trying something new on our iPhone, over.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. All righty, we got another, we'll let it go for another minute or so. We'll see what happens to get more people in here. I see some people I don't know. You know, got a good little crowd tonight. And Dwayne, are you here or are you up in Vermont?
We're here in Ellington.
That's good. Is your cabin winterized? Or
No, I got hopefully going up there next weekend and check out the mice and kick out the mice and see what the gas tank is doing.
take little frozen bodies out?
They're not frozen. They might be stiff, but they might. But it hasn't been that many so far.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Mice, I don't like mice. That's it's not a good thing. So, all righty, let's get things rolling here at 7:30 on my clock.
He doesn't play soccer anymore.
So, anyways, good evening, all. Welcome to the November HCRA meeting, and I'm Larry, WNAST club president, and running the meeting tonight. And I'd like to ask everybody to turn their phone ringers off. Or silence their phone ringers or turn their phones off. If you've got a TV on or background music or background noise, if you can close the door or turn off the background noise too. It's always best to give our guest speaker when he comes up the utmost attention without anybody having background noise coming in, and a ringing phone is one that can be extremely annoying. For those that don't know, the HCRA's fiscal year ends every year on August 31st, and September 1st, we start the new year, which is why every September we start, or the end of August, beginning of September, we start reminding people about paying their dues. Dues are just $15 a year, and the dues go to help pay for Zoom, which we're using now, helps pay for the website, and all sorts of club activities, anything you participate in, and field day and the Fox boxes and the holiday party and all sorts of things. And that's why we need your support, and we appreciate your support. It's just $15 a year. You can go to hcra.org and /current members and click on current members, and you can see if you have already paid. And if your name is not on the list, your dues are not up to date, if you could send them in, we'd all appreciate it very much. Because the club needs your support to keep active and to keep vibrant and to keep coming up with new programs and activities and things to do. So we need your support. Check your membership, and if you're not on there, send us you can hit connect with PayPal and send us a renewal. I'd like to remind everybody about the Monday Night Net. It's at 7 p.m. on 28375. Marcel and a host of other guest net controls are on. It's a casual net. It's a sideband. It's a lot of fun. With the bands opening, I think we're going to be seeing more DX coming in, and come and join us. That's every Monday night, 7 p.m. 28,375. One thing we started a couple months ago was through Jeff AB1WT suggested that we create a Amazon Smile account, which means that anytime you purchase something on Amazon Smile, if you sign up, the HCRA might get a 1/2% of whatever you purchase from Amazon will go into a fund and it gets donated to the club. It's all nonprofit. It's all benefits the club. Once every 3 months, Amazon sends the club some money. So we'll see what people have done. I know I'm a book fiend, so a lot of times, a lot of things I purchase online or through Amazon are fiction books, and a little credit there goes to the club every time I make a purchase. So it's something you can do. It does not cost you anything, and it benefits the club, and it's kind of silent and quiet out there. If you want to learn how to do that, you can look at the last couple of Zero Beats at hcra.org. And it may or may not be up on the website, but it's definitely in Zero Beat, and it will be in Zero Beat from now on. So that's something you can do. And it's called Amazon Smile with benefit to the HCRA. Let's see here. I thought I saw Aaron check in. Are you here, Aaron?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What's going on with Franklin County, and when's your next meeting? I think you have a breakfast tomorrow, which I don't know if I can drag myself out of bed early enough to get up there, but.
So we're having a breakfast, we're having breakfast tomorrow, Denny's Pantry in Greenfield, 8 a.m. Everyone is welcome, whether or not you're a member of the club. They have a nice breakfast. It's a good old fashioned greasy spoon breakfast joint. So everybody is welcome. And we're having a meeting on Monday about antenna tuners and, well, antenna matching systems presented by our Vice President, Brad Councilman.
Cool. Excellent.
Our newsletter will be going out as soon as I get a chance.
Okay, sounds good. Does anybody have any questions for Aaron? Franklin County is about 50, 60 miles north of us, and we try to do things with them and support them and vice versa. And you guys have a net in the middle of the day, right? A 10-meter net?
Yeah, we have a 10-meter net, and there's morning nets, and yeah, they're all on our webpage and in our groups IO thing. You can get reminders for them. Yeah, we're pretty chock full of nets.
Okay, that's good. And if anybody's ever looking for public service activities, that's something that they do. I don't know if there's anything going on in the winter time, but great, excellent. Thanks, Aaron.
We will be having a race that we're doing public support for in January.
Okay. All right. We'll make sure to mention it to our members and hopefully get you some extra people. Before I move on, is there any announcements or anything from anybody else? I'm going to talk about the holiday party in a moment, but are there any other announcements? Anybody want to announce anything? Anybody have anything for sale? Anybody need help with activities or projects? All's quiet. Okay. All right.
Got a question.
Go right ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, it's not so much a question, but a statement. I'm now the Assistant Section Emergency Coordinator for Western Mass, in charge of the nets. And we really need some help with NCS net control stations. We're going to lose 3 by the end of the year. So if anyone's interested in becoming a net control station, contact me through KCYK at ARL. And I will give you the information and answer any questions, but we could definitely use some help. Thank you.
Okay, why don't you write something up, Charlie, what a net control is, what a net control does, and what you need to do. You don't necessarily need a big rig with 100 watts to do it. You just need to be able to get into a repeater. So why don't you write something up and get it to Ken for Zero Beat for the December issue, and that way it'll reach more people. And there might be some people out there that want to do that.
I'll do that. Thank you. Yeah, I use 5 watts to run that. That's down here in Westfield. So it's real easy.
Okay, cool. All right, great. Thanks, Charlie. For those that don't know, we decided to do a holiday party. It's Monday night, December 6th. It starts at 6:30 p.m. It's at the Steaming Tender in Palmer. We've done holiday parties there in the past. We've had a great time. The food is good. The service is excellent. The conversation is fantastic. You can't go wrong. It's a great club event. In the past, we've had 75, 80 people there. The cost is very reasonable. It's $25 per person. And as I said, the food is really good. The menu is it's up. I sent an email out yesterday to the email reflector, and it's up on Facebook, and it's in Zero Beat, the newsletter. You can, if you're interested, pick what you want. You can now go on to PayPal on the HRA website, and you can pay electronically via PayPal. And as a note, you can put in what you're ordering and or send a email to Dwayne, and his email is up on the information too, as to what meals you would like. We're going to be having some raffle prizes, ham radio raffle prizes, not other stuff from past years. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're hoping everybody will can join us. We are asking that you are vaccinated. If you're going to come, we'd prefer you. We don't want anybody who's not vaccinated. We don't want to put everybody at risk. So we prefer that you're vaccinated. In fact, we want you to be vaccinated to come to the party. We are not selling any tickets at the door. So if you want to come, you can't gate crash. You will not be allowed in. You have to prepay, and you have to have your reservation in no later than Monday, November 22nd. So please do so. You can send a check-in to the PO Box 362, Agawam, Mass. 01101. You can pay via PayPal on the website. It's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be great to see everybody. I know has been itching to see everybody else, and it's going to be good to see everybody. We did an activity back in September with Franklin County, and it was great to see everybody. Some guys have been having fun going to Brown Baggers, and the HRA holiday party is something where you can bring your spouse or bring a friend or come by yourself, whichever you prefer, but wives and girlfriends and significant others are invited, and we hope everybody will join us. It's always a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun, and it will be again this year. So that is, again, Monday night, December 6th at 6:30 p.m. We have the restaurant to ourselves until 9:30 p.m. It's in an old train station, and trains actually do go by. You'll enjoy the outing. Hold on. Excuse me. So hopefully everybody will sign up for that, and we'll get a good crowd. And in the meantime, I'd like to introduce Rob N1NUG, who's from Ellington, right?
Yeah, I'm actually Dwayne's next door neighbor. So
Okay, how convenient. Anyways, Rob's going to tell us about creating your own YouTube channel and how to do a Parks on the Air activation. And it's all yours, Rob. Do you want me to give you share screen capability?
yeah, I've got some presentations to throw up. So I've got the two presentations. Which one do you want to do first? Do you have a preference, or
It's up to you.
what do you guys?
Whatever you would like to do.
I'll do the Pota one first because that just happens to be the one I clicked on.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me first get this squared away. Give me a second here to get this squared away. And how's my audio, by the way? I sometimes have trouble with this microphone.
It sounds great.
Okay, good. Okay, can you see the screen? Okay. So, like I said, Larry asked me, or Larry and Gary, I guess, asked me to present to you guys. And first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I'm well aware of the Hamden Radio Club. Obviously, Dwayne is a member. He's not only my neighbor, he's my brother-in-law. So he tells me a lot about what you guys are up to. And also, my Elmer was a member of the club for a long time. Some of you may remember Don W1UPH.
Oh,
He was
yes.
actually my Elmer back in the early 90s. He and I were actually in college together. He had gone back to take some training classes at STCC, and that's where we met. And he convinced me to get licensed back then. And I know he was a member of this club. And I actually got my extra with you guys back in 2012, I think. You guys had a testing session, and I went through that. So thanks again. So like I said, the first one I have here is Parks on the Air, Pota. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this program or have done any of it. Maybe some of this is review for some of you guys, but he put something together for it. I've done some Pota work. I'm certainly not the expert, but I've had some fun with it and learned some things along the way. And hopefully I can share some of that stuff with you guys here. Especially those of you who haven't tried this before, maybe you can learn a few things from a couple of mistakes I've made. Okay, so first of all, before you activate, the best thing to do, especially if you've never done it, is to go to the website. There's tons of information on the Pota website, including the rules, the regulations, and they even have some guidelines on how to do your first activation. So I suggest going there too before you do anything. So then what you want to do is you want to determine what park you want to activate. And you want to check the mapping apps for directions, traffic, and park boundaries. That's kind of one of the things that are a little up in the air sometimes and sketchy with some of these parks is sometimes the boundaries aren't quite well defined. So you want to make sure that you're in the park so that when you activate, you're doing a legal activation. Also check for the hours, parking restrictions, things like that. You don't want to show up to a park that may be an hour away and not be able to get in. Check for any state or local restrictions. For example, here in Connecticut, we can't fly drones in our state parks. So if you head out for an activation and you want to bring your drone in Connecticut, you can't fly it, not in the state park anyway. And some parks may have restrictions on the number of people that can gather, with COVID and everything, although that's probably not quite the concern that it was, last year, but there still may be some restrictions. So make sure you check that out. And then also some states, I don't think we have any issues around here, but I know some states further to the west have some restrictions on putting things in trees. So if you were going to head out to a park and put an antenna in a tree, you want to check and make sure that that's something that you can do without getting in trouble. And then lastly, again, I've heard of some states or parks require a permit to operate. And I don't think that's the case around here. I've never heard of anything like that in New England anyway, but it's more sort of, out in the Midwest and areas like that where sometimes a park ranger might come up to somebody and want a permit or something like that. But I think those are even kind of the exception and not really the rule, but it's best to check that ahead of time before you head out. Determine the mode that you want to use and make sure that you pack the right gear. CW, sideband, digital. If you're going to do digital, you want to do FT8 or something, make sure you bring your computer or whatever. Determine the antenna that you want to use and make sure there's room for it and that you have a way to set it up when you get to the park. One of my early Pota activations, I was camping in Vermont and the campsite was a little small and I had to kind of improvise to get my antenna to fit on the campsite, but I was able to do it. But yeah, you want to make sure that you'll have room, especially if you're going to string out an 80-meter dipole or something big like that. Before leaving home, it's always kind of handy to check the band conditions, the spots, things like that, to get an idea of what's going on the air that day. There was at least one time where I was going to do a Pota activation and I headed out and there was, one of those geomagnetic storms going on and I didn't make too many contacts, but that's okay. I still had fun with it. But had I checked the bands before I left the house, I would have known, what to expect, and maybe not as been as disappointed. Another good tip is to check the weather forecast. I learned that this summer I was actually going to do a soda activation, and I wasn't prepared for some weather. Although I did check the forecast, they said 0% chance of rain, and I was up on Mount Musalaki and it rained. So and I didn't have any rain gear with me, but it's always a good idea to check the forecast before you go. And if you're so inclined, you want to post on the Pota website and our social media groups to let others know you're planning an activation. There's a spot on the Pota website for upcoming activations, so you can kind of schedule it ahead of time if you know you're going to do it. Say you're going to go on a camping trip or something like that. It lets others know that you're going to be there, especially for those who are chasers, Pota chasers, and they may be looking to get a particular park or a particular state to earn an award or something like that. So it gives them advance notice that you're going to be there and lets them kind of, get that park or that state if they need it. And you can also post, there's Facebook groups and other forums for Pota as well that you can post in. One thing that I found that's good to do is to set up your station at home first and make a few contacts with it to make sure that everything is going to work before you head out to the park, just to shake it down and make sure everything is in working order and that you have everything that you need, cables, connectors, that kind of a thing, and that everything is working the way that you expect it to. One of my early activations, I went out to a park, I had a bad connection. And I wasn't sure what was wrong. I had to fiddle around for half an hour and realized I had a bad crimp contact in a power connection. So always best to test before you go out. And then some people like to make a checklist of all their stuff. Once they have an established kind of go bag or go kit for Pota, they like to make a checklist and then go through and make sure they have everything before they head out. That's probably something I should do. I'm guilty of not doing that, but the worst thing you can do is head out to a park and realize that you forgot some connector that you needed to, hook everything up, and you ruin your day, especially if it's, a long drive to get to a particular park. So to find a park to activate, the Pota website has a great mapping feature that you can use to kind of find all your parks. And you can see here from this screenshot, I just grabbed kind of Massachusetts just to kind of see, and wherever there's a yellow dot, there's a valid park that you can activate. And if we were on the live website, you'd be able to see that you can hover over the dot and then click on it. It'll tell you what the park is. And then from there, you can bring up an info card of the park and get even more details about that. Some people like to go out, for an outing for a day and target multiple parks. So this is also a good way to see, where parks might be close together. So you like up here in the Northampton area or whatever, or North Adams, is one good, area where there's a bunch of parks. You might be able to hit a bunch for a day or something. So this is a kind of a good, quick way to figure that out. And then there's also something in Pota where there's twofers. I don't know if we have too many around here, but it's a park within a park, basically. So you may have one of the state parks over here, for instance, in the Berkshires where the Appalachian Trail runs through. Well, the park is a Pota entity, but so is the Appalachian Trail. And so if you go and activate and set up within 100 feet of the Appalachian Trail within that park, you can claim credit for both entities. So some people like to do that too. So this next page is a screenshot of the card that comes up when you click on more information about a park. So I pulled up just as a screenshot the Federated Women's Club State Forest, which is up here at the northern part of the Quabbin. And it's kind of cool. This is a recent update to the Pota program and website where they give you all these statistics now. So not only can you go out and do a Pota activation, but you can kind of, I don't want to say compete, but you can kind of compete within a certain park. to see, who was the first one to activate it. Who's got the most contacts at that park as an activator, and which hunter has the most contacts to that park. So you can get kind of down to that level if you're into that aspect of the hobby or statistics or that kind of a thing, or just are interested in that kind of a thing. So I think it's kind of neat that they added that in. So what kind of gear do you need? Basically, you need a power source, a radio, a mic, or a key, depending on what you're going to do there. An antenna, something to log with, and power and antenna cables. And if you're going to do a digital mode, you'll need a PC. Extras that you might want to bring. If you're into solar panel or alternative power, you might want to bring that. Battery management, charge controller, power distribution, or even an inverter if you want to power a laptop or something from a solar panel and a battery setup. I know some people are doing that, especially on a camping trip where they've got an extended amount of time that they can stay in a park. It's always a good idea to bring spare mics or a spare key if that's your mode, or a computer for digital modes, logging, that kind of a thing. Spare antennas are always handy. I usually bring 2 because my antennas are generally homebrew and sometimes they don't always come out of the pack the same way they went in. Spare coax and connectors, adapters, that kind of a thing. Support poles, guy wires, all that kind of hardware that you might need to erect an antenna. It's always good to have spares of that stuff too, if you have the room for it. You might even want to consider bringing a spare radio. I like to bring an HT along with me too, sometimes, because contacts on 2-meter simplex count. And especially if you're up on some elevation, you might be able to whip out an HT and make a couple of contacts on 5.2 and just get a couple of extra contacts that way. And people are usually happy to work you on 5.2. Sometimes the GPS is handy, and it's handy to have your cell phone for spotting purposes, or in an emergency if you need to call somebody. If you're going to a park and you're operating tailgate, sometimes it's nice to have folding chairs or tables, cushions, or in the summertime or in the wintertime, a tent or a canopy. A friend of mine down in Southern Connecticut got an ice fishing tent that he loves for winter Pota activation. So all kinds of stuff you can do there. And then another thing that's handy to have are handouts, QSL cards, copies of your license, and maybe even some treats for passing pets, that kind of a thing. And what that does is that helps kind of ease tension sometimes with the public or passerbys that may be curious about what you're doing. And it can sometimes start a conversation. One of the things that I like about Pota is it gets ham radio out in front of the public. So it's a great conversation starter. You get somebody in and you start talking to them about what you're doing, and you never know, you might get somebody sparked in the hobby, and who knows, they may go and get licensed at some point. So popular radios to use for Pota, no particular order. There's probably more radios on here, that are on here that might be useful, but some of you guys may already have these radios kicking around in your shack. But basically the idea is, you want to use a radio that's portable, that you can kind of carry around, and, fits within your power budget, depending on what kind of battery you're using, whether you're, using your car battery or some other form of power. You don't want to bring out, some big honking radio and amplifier and drain your power in 10 minutes. But like I said, so these are some of the popular choices that are on the market right now. Me personally, my main Pota radio that I use is the one pictured here, the FT891. Seems like a good all-around workhorse radio. But people have had success with a lot of these radios on this list. Antenna ideas. This is where you can get kind of creative and play around, especially if you're into home brewing and building antennas. So not all antennas will work in all situations. You want to consider larger antennas like full-size dipoles if you'll have room to deploy them. In some cases you're not going to, or it might not be convenient to do that. So you may want to stick with some kind of a vertical, like a Wolf River coil, or even a ham stick or something like that. A friend of mine right now has been experimenting with ham sticks over the last couple of weeks. so that he can, head out over the winter and do some operating. And they seem to be working well for him. So, again, consider the kind of the space and how much stuff you want to carry. And then here's some popular ones. Like I said, ham sticks, the super antenna, the Wolf River coil. Those all seem real popular right now for Pota, and some of these other ones on the list. Personally, I like to homebrew. My favorite Pota antenna is my linked dipole that I put together from Home Depot wire and just scraps laying around. The one pictured here is from a Pota activator in Southern Connecticut. This is just a wire doublet. He constructed that out of a painter's pole and some stuff he had laying around, scrap. He made up his own feed line. He's feeding this with ladder line that he made. You can't see it in the picture, but you can get as creative as you want, or you can do store bought. It doesn't matter. And then antenna support ideas. This is where it gets a little tricky sometimes, depending on what park you're at and kind of how much room you've got. Supports are usually compromised between ease of setup and takedown, available area, existing support structures, cost, durability, size, and weight. You want to make sure that you check the park and local rules, like I said before attaching anything to trees or pounding anything in the ground. There's even restrictions on that in some locations. Telescoping fiberglass poles seem to be pretty popular. A lot of people like those. Some of them are the friction ones where they just go up and kind of twist and hold together. And others are like the one I show in the picture where they kind of like clamp as they go up. Personally, I use surplus military canopy poles because they're cheap and I'm a cheapskate, but they're a little kind of hard to manage and kind of carry around. They don't collapse into each other. But they work okay for me. I like them and they're cheap, but they're a little hard to come by. I was getting mine at the ham fests, but with everything going on in the world, ham fests are far and few between these days, but hopefully that'll change in the future. Painter's poles work. I had a painter's pole that I was using before I got the canopies, and that works okay. Obviously you want to get your antenna up as high as you can, but I've had pretty good luck with an antenna only 12 or 15 feet off the ground. It seems to work okay for Pota. A lot of people like the drive-on or trailer hitch pole supports, where it's just a kind of a plate with a pole in it, and you can drive your tire over that, and it'll hold that up, and you can put a mast in there and support it that way. That's a quick and easy way to get an antenna mast supported without putting anything in a tree or pounding anything in the ground. Magnetic mounts can work for ham sticks or other antennas, but you may need to string out counterpoise wires. I was experimenting with that a little bit last summer, and it seemed to work okay with counterpoise wires off my car. But again, experiment and see what works for you. Let's see, power. LifePo batteries are the current favorite choice for operators because they're light, they're safe, and they work well with ham gear, but they're kind of expensive compared to other options. Regular sealed lead acid batteries are safe, relatively inexpensive, but are obviously heavy and not as power dense. You'll drain them quicker. Solar can be used to extend battery life. Panels are a little bit expensive and bulky, but they have these rollout panels now that some people like. I'm not sure how efficient those are, but that's an option, especially if you're going to run QRP or something like that. And of course, they're going to work better in the summer than going into winter with, better sun angles. And you'll also need a charge controller when you're using a solar panel to regulate the voltage. And those can sometimes be a little noisy depending on where you get them and who makes it. So keep that in mind. But you can always, charge the battery while you're not operating, kind of a thing, if that's the case. Small portable generators can sometimes work if you're, at a campground or something like that. But those are obviously expensive, noisy, and heavy. And again, those are, probably more suited if you're going to be spending the day at a, campground or something like that. And then you can successfully power your radio from your vehicle too, without too much trouble, but just make sure you don't deplete your battery. One of my activations, I thought I would be creative and power my radio from my motorcycle. And turns out my motorcycle battery was a little weak. and I was out in Rhode Island, and luckily I was able to pop start the motorcycle and get home. Otherwise, I was going to have to call my wife to come get me. Let's see, other gear that you might want to bring. Antenna or feed line, coax, ladder line, that kind of a thing you're going to need. I find RG8X coax works pretty well for me. But again, experiment and see what works for you. Some people like to always, bring an assortment of adapters and connectors. That's always handy, especially if you're trying out a new radio or you're going and you're going to activate with someone else, and you're going to swap radios or antennas or something like that. It's always handy to have rope, zip ties, duct tape, hammers, tools, things like that, just in case something goes wrong or you need them to put up your antenna. Tuners, analyzers, multimeters, or even a VNA can be helpful. In my case, I like to do all that stuff at home, and hopefully when I go out to the park, the antenna is still good, but some people like to bring that stuff along too. Camp chairs, tables, canopies, heaters, that kind of a thing. Laptops, tablets, all that stuff for logging or digital modes, if that's what you're going to do. Food and water, like I said before, information sheets are handy to have to hand out to passerbys. I've also found that for whatever reason, if you put up an antenna at a park, even if you think you're out of the way, somebody's going to try and trip over the wires. So it's always good to flag them off, just so that if somebody's in the area, they don't trip and hurt themselves or pull your radio off of a picnic table or something like that by accident. If you're going to put antennas up in trees, throw weights or slingshots or something like that for getting your wires into the trees are handy to bring. Just watch out for regulations and people standing nearby, and leave the potato guns at home. Those are probably a little too powerful for using out at a park. It's always handy to also have a park map and information so you're in the park boundaries and you're following the rules of the park that you're at. Okay, so the actual activation. Double check your park rules, boundaries, off-limit areas, available space. Take inventory of your equipment, make sure you have everything. Make sure you have enough room to set everything up. Make sure cords, feed line, and antenna wires are out of the way of passerbys and are flagged. Check the angle of the sun to make sure that your radio screens are readable. I've gotten into situations where I've set everything up and then realized I had to turn around 180 degrees so I could see my radio or my log. If it's windy out, make sure everything is secure. And if you're using paper log, make sure you got something to hold those in place, like a clipboard or something. After setting everything up, tune to the band you want to start on and tune around to check the band conditions, see what you can hear. If you have a mobile device, something that you can check the Pota website, check the spotting page and see if there's any other Pota stations on the air, and you can start working them. And that's typically what I'll do to get set up. Not only does it let me know kind of how the bands are working, but it lets me know my gear is working if I can work a few other stations first, and I can put those in the log and get park to park credit for those, which is kind of unique in the Pota sense. Once you're satisfied everything is working, and you've worked any other Pota activators, find a clear frequency to call CQ. And that can be kind of tricky. Sometimes you want to make sure that you're not operating on any established frequencies, say like 14.230. A lot of people use that for slow scan TV. You want to avoid stuff like that. And sometimes you're not always going to be aware of some of these gentlemen's agreements, or some net might be on a frequency every day that you might not be aware of. So check for that before you start. And if you do get in an activation and somebody asks you to move, it's best to just move and not argue with them. If you're able, go to the Pota spotting page and spot yourself. Unlike a contest, you can spot yourself in Pota. In fact, it's encouraged. You're not going to always be able to do that if you're at a park where you don't have cell coverage or you just don't have a cell phone with you, but it does help if you're able to spot yourself ahead of time to let everybody know, that you're out there. But if you can't, then, just call CQ and see what happens. Usually if the band is good, you'll be able to get somebody. And usually once you work one or two stations, one of those stations will spot you. The typical Pota exchange is as follows. So you're going to call CQ Pota. So like November 1, November Uniform Golf, calling CQ Pota from Park Kilo 6867. That's my park number that I might be in. And then the returning station is just going to give their call sign, just like a typical contest exchange. And then you'd pretty much just give them back their signal report and just restate the park. Sometimes people don't catch it the first time. And then thanks for hunting. It's usually a short exchange. And then you give them back, their signal report and thank them. And that's not to say that every contact has to be this short. That's just sort of the typical norm, but some chasers tend to do a little bit of rag chewing on the contact. It's really up to you. But if you're just getting started, that's sort of the basic kind of format of the contact. And then here, I just took a screenshot of the spotting page that I've been talking about here in the last couple of slides. And you can see here on the website, there's an entry for all the stations that are currently active. And this is kind of the information that you see. That's their call sign at their park number. And then it gives the park name, the state, the frequency they're on. And then I believe that this call sign here is the one that spotted them. And then a short message. And then down here at the bottom, it tells how long ago they were last spotted. So one of the things here that I meant to say with the contact, and even here in the spotting page, it's always good to let people know what state you're in addition to what park you're in. Some people aren't watching the spotting page, and they'll just ask you, what state you're in, because they're not going to know from the park number. So I always try to say that. Okay, so logging. Logs are pretty simple for Pota. You just need the date, the time, the call sign you worked, their location, basically their state, or if they happen to be another Pota station in a park, you'll want their park number too, if that's applicable, and the RST. Excuse me. For Pota, only the activator submits the log. This is sometimes where people get confused. But for the Pota credit and the Pota website, only the activator submits the log. But the chasers get credit automatically from the Pota website. Now, chasers can log if they want. They can't submit their log to the Pota website, but they can submit to other services like Logbook of the World or QSL or whatever. But in terms of the Pota universe, it's just the activator. The log file must be output in ADIF format and contain the activator's park number in the MySig info field. For park to park contacts, the log should have the other station's park number in the SIG info field. So in your favorite logging program, you'll want to make sure that those fields are populated. Logs are emailed. The ADIF file is emailed to a volunteer coordinator for each call sign region. For New England, we send our logs to K1 at Parks on the Air. And sometimes the volunteers get a little backed up, so it can take up to 2 weeks, maybe even sometimes more, for them to process the log. Usually they'll send you an email back once they have processed it, or you can go onto the Pota website and see your activation once you're in your page. Popular logging methods, paper. I like to use paper. I'm kind of all thumbs when it comes to computers. So I find it easier to use paper in the field and then transcribe it into a log program in the shack. But some people like to bring along a tablet or a laptop and bring that. So some of the popular programs are the N3FJP program, but it needs a little bit of a tweak to work with Pota. There's instructions for that on the website. I don't think it's very hard. I haven't done it myself. Hammers is a relatively newcomer to the logging field, but it's tailored to Pota. And that's something that a lot of people are picking up and using. I haven't tried it yet myself, but I'm told that it's pretty easy to use. Some people like N1MM. And I personally use Log for OM. That one's free and And like I said, I do paper in the field and then transcribe it into that. Okay, and then when you're done with your activation, some people like to respot themselves on the spot page and just say QRT to let chasers know that they're gone. You know, with band conditions, you know, sometimes fading in and out. Somebody may be trying to get your state or your park, and you know, they may be listening for you, and then they hear you fade into the noise, and they're not sure if you're gone or not. Sometimes it's helpful to just post on the spotting page that you've gone QRT or changed bands or moved on to another park or something. But it's not required. You don't have to do that. Make sure you leave the park better than you found it. Don't leave any trash around, that kind of a thing. And then submit your log to the Pota Log Manager and other logging sites as you see fit. And then, you know, completely optional, but a lot of people have found that they like to share their stories about their activations on social media, you know, whether that be a YouTube video or on Facebook, or even just on like your club page. Let everybody know, hey, I went out and activated this park, and maybe throw a few pictures up there. It helps kind of bring awareness to ham radio. Pota seems to appeal to kind of newcomers to the hobby and people that maybe not necessarily you know, exposed to ham radio in the first place, more outdoor enthusiasts and stuff. And they see these pictures of these parks and stuff and want to know what you're up to. So it's kind of a cool thing, but totally optional. You don't have to do that. And then what I like to do too is kind of check back and make sure that any problems I noticed with any of my gear or whatever, that I take care of that before I go out for my next activation, so that I'm not dealing with it again the next time. Some other information. Pota offers numerous awards and certificates to hunters and activators, all for free. So check the Pota website for details on that. If you're a paper chaser, you know, there's just so many different things that you can go after in there. It's kind of cool. And they're always adding new ones. Right now, only state and federal parks that are listed in the Pota database currently qualify. I've personally noticed there's a few state parks around that are missing, but right now the Pota team is not adding any new United States parks to the database. They're focusing on international right now. At some point they may come back and add more, but right now they're not adding any new ones. So you got to work with what's on the database. The Pota staff is 100% volunteer, so be patient with any requests or problems that you might run into. It's 100% free, like I said, but if you get some enjoyment out of it, it may be worthwhile donating if you have the means and feel like you want to do. Again, completely not, you know, mandatory, just something that is kind of a nice thing to do, I guess. Pota is a great way to show off ham radio to the public. Like I was saying, if someone from the public stops by and visits your activation, try to take the time to answer their questions and kind of show what you're doing and share it with them. You never know, you might make a new ham out of them. Pota is a great way for people who live in apartments or other areas with antenna restrictions to get on HF. I have a good friend that I talk to here in town almost daily, and he's not necessarily a Pota operator, but he loves to get out in the parks and operate HF because it's the only way he can do it. So this is a great way to do that and sort of get credit for it. Like I said earlier, a complete list of rules, requirements, and getting started guides are on the Pota website. There's numerous videos and blogs detailing Pota activations on the internet that can provide inspiration and other ideas for your Pota activation. So, you know, feel free to check those out and see what everyone else is up to too. And that's pretty much all I've got for this. Anybody have any questions or discussions on this?
Rob, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Have you used the Slack for Parks on the Air?
I have not. I know some people have.
Yeah, I got connected with that, and I can see it's very active and a lot of interesting stories and pictures and stuff.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to check that out myself.
How do you find groups on Slack?
The way I did it, I don't know that I could have done it in any other way. When I was taking classes in LICW for CW, one of the instructors basically invited me through Slack to join Slack, and that the actual way to do that outside of that, someone inviting you, I don't know, but it worked very easily.
Okay, I'll have to figure that out. Thanks, John. Anybody else have any other questions for Rob?
Yeah, I have one. Can you just drive with a mobile station up there in the park and operate from the car?
Yeah, you can definitely operate from your car. In fact, a lot of people do that in the wintertime, and that's what my friend John is doing right now. He's been experimenting with ham sticks so that he doesn't have to get out of the car. You can just drive up to a park and get on the air and make some contacts.
Rob, can I ask a question? Did you,
Sure.
Any strange occurrences or any surprises that you encountered when you were operating?
Not really. I was the strangest thing, I guess, that may have happened to me, and it's not really that strange. I was experimenting with using my motorcycle to kind of go out and do some Pota activations, and I went to a park not far from here just to test everything out and see if it would work. I had set some ham sticks up on the motorcycle, believe it or not, and I was out testing it. And I was parked right next to a picnic table, and I could hear another motorcycle kind of coming up behind me, and it was really loud, and it was kind of annoying me because I couldn't hear the radio anymore. And so the guy came up real close to me, and then I realized that motorcycle used to be mine. I had sold it to that guy, and he took the muffler off of it for whatever reason. But that was, I guess, the strangest thing. For the most part, I haven't had any issues. I thought one time I was out in Rhode Island doing a park, and I thought I was going to be questioned by a park ranger, but he just drove right by me and didn't say anything. So pretty benign stuff, other than, maybe somebody coming by and tripping on an antenna.
Yeah, I just regarding Slack, it's a free app. Anybody could join it, and I think I don't remember exactly where I got the actual name of the Slack channel for Pota, but it must have been on the Pota site. So, and it's interesting because you could see a lot of traffic there. And if you got a smartphone, it sort of frees up stuff. It's almost like a spotting kind of thing where you know who's busy where. And when I've operated Pota, it's been QRP, and with the conditions we've had in the past, it was sort of a struggle in many times, because I'll just use a portable mag loop, which no matter what they say is not as good as a dipole. But and in any event, but I found Slack to be useful when I was up there. So something to check out anyway.
Cool, excellent. Well, thanks, Rob. That was great presentation.
Yeah, no problem.
And is there a way we can get a copy of that so we can put it up on our HRA website?
Sure, I can email that to you. Not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay, that's great. And let's go on to part 2.
Okay, how are we doing on time? I don't know how long your meetings usually run or any of that.
They're as long as the speaker speaks.
Okay. All right, so I did prepare sort of another presentation, and and again, I when I was first contacted, I was kind of taken aback because I'm just kind of an average ham like anybody else here. I don't really have that much to add to the hobby, but one thing I do that's probably different than most of you here is I do the YouTube thing. So I thought I could kind of put some stuff together and share a little bit about that if you guys are interested in it. It's something that I never thought I'd be doing myself, but I kind of fell into it. So let me get this one going here. Let's see if this works. Okay, how's that look? You guys see that okay?
Looks great.
Okay. So again, I have a YouTube channel, and just to give you a little backstory on that before I get started, I really started the channel to kind of show some of the stuff I work on around here to my friend Scott. We like to tinker with stuff. And at the time I started this back in 2009 or 2010, whenever it was, we were working opposite schedules, and YouTube was kind of a new thing. And I said, oh, I'll just throw videos up there of the stuff I'm doing so you can see it. We were both kind of messing around with small engines and cameras at the time. So we thought it would be fun to do. Well, I threw them up there, didn't think anything of it. And people started watching them. So I kept making videos, and that's kind of where it snowballed. And basically I make videos about all the stuff I do, just hobbies and things around the house. And of course, ham radio is one of those things. Again, I'm not, I guess what you'd say, a hammy ham. I'm not constantly on ham radio, 24/7. And that's not what I do on YouTube 24/7, but I do feature it fairly heavily. So I'll share with you guys kind of some observations and things about that in case you've thought about starting a YouTube channel or even any other social media type outlet to kind of share your experiences. I've often thought that more clubs should kind of pick up on this, clubs like yourselves, where you're an active club and you're out, in the public doing activities. It's a great way to show that off, build membership and build interest in the hobby. So first up, social media and ham radio. Why bother? Ham radio and CB is sort of the grandfather of social media. So there's sort of a natural connection there. Another reason is to kind of publicize and normalize ham radio to audiences that wouldn't normally be exposed to the hobby. We have all tried to explain what ham radio is to, our cousins or uncles or whoever, and they don't always quite get it because it's not necessarily in the mainstream. So the more content that's out there on social media, the more we get this hobby and service kind of out there so that people are aware of it and kind of know what we do and aren't, so confused by it. You can help other hams by sharing tips, tricks, experiences, and unique practices. I know I've learned a ton by watching other people's videos or looking at posts in groups. You get a lot of ideas and inspiration that way. So I like to share some of the stuff that I've come up with too. Elmering advice for new hams. There's hams out there that don't have the luxury of being able to get to a club meeting or knowing anybody in ham radio. So if they happen to be interested in it and they punch it up in social media, they can get interested in it that way. It's also a good way to learn an adjunct hobby, videography, editing, photography. I've always been sort of interested in photography. I'm not a good photographer by any means, but I was playing around with digital cameras, and making videos gave me an excuse to kind of mess with the cameras and learn a little bit about lighting and apertures and f-stops and that kind of a thing. So certainly not, to the extent a professional photographer would, but it gave me an excuse to play around with that hobby as well. It's also a way to share ham radio with other like-minded individuals in geographically diverse areas and participate in virtual clubs. That's kind of one of the things that I found being, on YouTube. I've met a bunch of people around the country that have similar interest in ham radio and making videos, and we're able to kind of talk to one another and share ideas and that kind of a thing. And it's almost like a virtual club. So it's been kind of cool in that regard. I belong to the Natchog Radio Club here in Connecticut, and those guys just aren't interested in video at all. So they're a great group. We do a lot of ham radio stuff, but I can't share that aspect of the hobby with them. So, using social media to do that is kind of a great way to share that. And like I said before, you can use social media to promote your club and attract new members. And I think you guys probably have a leg up on that. You guys have a pretty active Facebook page, I think. So a lot of clubs around here just don't use it at all. And I think they're missing out a little bit. So what type of ham radio content should you share? Basically anything that promotes ham radio in a positive way. And I've got a whole list of stuff here. I'm not going to read everything here, but I mean, pretty much anything goes. My recommendation though is to try and keep it positive. We want to show ham radio in a positive light. So I kind of always try to dissuade people from talking about politics and ham radios because it tends to kind of put people off. We do have a lot of politics in our hobby, not necessarily government politics, but ham radio politics, where there's a lot of online infighting and bickering, and try to stay away from that if I can. The problem with that though is it draws in people, so it's hard to stay away from it. But I suggest that you try to do that. Be prepared for negative comments, heated debates, and being called out. I'm far from an expert in anything. And I try to state that when I make a video. I try to be as humble as I can about it. But you're always going to have somebody, kind of call you out, and just be ready for that. Sometimes it's not unfounded, but sometimes somebody will have a point, and you want to try and listen to that. And if they have a point, acknowledge it. Don't be ashamed to do that. And then, like I said, proliferation of petty disputes can discourage people from becoming hams and joining ham clubs. I've seen some of that in the YouTube community where there's, some back and forth and people calling out other groups or whatever. And let's just keep that stuff off because nobody really needs to see it. Let's see, what do you need to create content? Well, pretty much any camera capable of 1080p or better will do. A smartphone works fine. Any of the modern smartphones have wonderful video capabilities. GoPro cameras work good, mirrorless DSLRs, camcorders, whatever you got, basically. A camera with a flip screen or monitor is best, but not necessary. The reason for that is if you're going to be on camera, and you don't have to be, but if you're going to be on camera, it's best to have a flip screen so you can kind of see what's going on and make sure you're in the frame and that kind of a thing. But if you're behind the camera, then it's not necessarily something that you need. Good audio is very important for video, believe it or not. In fact, a lot of people will watch a video that has bad video quality, but good audio quality. But if you ever tried to watch a video that just the sound is off, it's hard. So external mics are recommended, but some smartphones have, great audio too. Wireless lapel mics are great for outside or in other noisy environments. You can get a little lapel here and it tends to cancel out noise behind you because your body will block it, that kind of a thing. For general ham radio videos, mono microphones work just fine. Stereo can be a little bit distracting. Some cameras have stereo mics, and especially if you're out, say you're doing a Pota activation and you've got all this ambient noise coming in, it can be a little hard to watch the video back later, just because the noise is distracting, birds chirping, that kind of a thing. A second audio source or mic can sometimes be helpful for capturing audio from radios, that kind of a thing. So, you can be talking, and then if you have a secondary mic or something like that you can place near a radio speaker, or even, a line out jack or something like that to get good quality audio for your video. You'll need a computer capable of running some kind of video editing software with a fairly decent graphics card and storage space. You'll need some video editing software. There's some paid options and free options that are out there. I still use a free option, believe it or not. But there's plenty of packages out there that you can experiment with. And then you'll want actually some photo editing software too, to make thumbnails for your videos, or if you're doing an Instagram site or something like that, you may want to touch up photos before you post them. Just for reference, I put a list of what I have here. My main camera is a Canon M50 mirrorless camera. I generally use a 22 millimeter pancake lens, just a single lens. It's nice and small and light. I also have a Sigma 30 millimeter lens that I use in the shack when I'm doing close-up work on a radio or something. I had the kit lens that came with the camera, but my cat knocked the tripod over and broke the lens. But that was a pretty useful lens. It worked pretty well with that camera. I also have a GoPro. I've been experimenting with just kind of walking around type stuff and doing a little bit of stuff even on my motorcycle. So the GoPro has kind of worked well for that. I have a Nikon D5300 with a 50 millimeter lens and the kit lens. That's not a good video camera. It's a good photography camera, but it doesn't work so well for video. It's got a noisy autofocus, and it's a little hard to kind of use, but it's sort of my backup camera. And then what I'm using now for live streaming, I don't do a whole lot of live streaming, but I use a Logitech C920 for my camera. It seems to work just fine. Microphones, I use a Rode video mic most of the time, and that's just a shotgun mic that sits on top of the camera up here on the shoe. But I also have a Comica Boom XD wireless lav mic. There's a little module that plugs into the camera up here, and then I've got the two remote modules that I can clip on and walk, maybe 100 yards from the camera, and the audio is still good. I have a Purple Panda wired lav mic that I've been using with the GoPro and some of my walking around videos. I have a Fifine. It's just the Amazon USB mic for the computer. That's what you guys are listening to now. And I have a little Sony handheld audio recorder, audio only, that I use for secondary audio. My computer is just a Dell XPS. It's a 2018, I think I got it. I got an i7 processor, 3.2 gigahertz, that kind of a thing. You can see the specs there. It works okay. It's a little doggy. Once I got the GoPro, the GoPro footage records in 60 frames per second, and it's a little doggy with this computer, but for the most part, it does fine for the video editing. My software that I use, like I said, it's free. HitFilm Express video editing software. It's maybe not the best software out there, but I've gotten used to it. And for the type of editing that I do, it works fine. Some people like to use higher end programs, with more capability, and you can add graphics and things like that. I don't do too much of that, but some people like to experiment with that. And then I have a few tripods and little gadgets and things like that. So all in all, not a real fancy setup, just kind of basic stuff. Live streaming. A lot of people like live streaming. I personally don't, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad. Pros, no editing, saves time and effort. That's why a lot of people do it. You get on a live stream, you do your share your information or do whatever you're going to do, and you're done. And that's it. And then you can go on with your day. It also gives your audience a chance to interact with you, and you can kind of build a community. And I think that's important for like a club that wants to start an online presence. That community is good. A format like we're having now. You can, if you're going to live stream, if some news thing breaks or whatever, you can talk about that sort of in real time. If you're going to go live stream, you don't have to shoot a video and edit it and post it. And sort of the algorithms seem to like live streamers, whether it be on YouTube or other platforms, and they kind of promote that to other users that may not necessarily see a traditional video. Cons, live streaming can be glitchy, computer problems, internet problems, you name it. Lighting and camera setups for good quality streams are difficult and expensive. You need a fast and stable internet connection. And you can't edit out any mistakes or anything that you say wrong or anything like that. But you can delete the stream afterwards if you want to. But streams can require some pre-planning and maybe even a script or agenda to follow. I know some of the bigger ham radio YouTube guys, they'll write a script and kind of like what we've got here, presentation to go through. And even though you may be saving time on editing, if you're going to do a quality stream, then it's going to take you time to prepare for it. If you have guests on, it can be unpredictable, sometimes, so you want to be careful of that. And it's difficult to manage a live stream when you're in front of the camera and trying to manage all the equipment, the lighting, and if there's sort of a chat or something like that going on, it's a lot of moving parts, and it's hard to do, at least for me. So let's see, tips promoting your channel or your page. Don't over promote. That can turn people off. I've seen that where, people are just pushing it a little too hard, and, there's kind of sort of a sweet spot there, I think. Use Google to find topics that are trending and focus on those. if you want to, you know, if that's what you're going for. As I said before, I make videos about stuff that interests me or that I'm working on. But some people, you know, they want to talk about things that are trending in, you know, in the hobby or something right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, it's a good way, especially, you know, with a club, to kind of keep everybody in the know. I like to comment on similar videos and pages from my account so that people see that it's me, and we can kind of start a, you know, a dialogue. People start to see me and say, oh yeah, I know that guy. And you can kind of build friendships that way too. I've befriended a few people online with similar interests. You know, shortwave listening is something that I do. And I kind of befriended a couple of those guys just by commenting on their videos and thanking them for the video, that kind of a thing. And now, you know, we're good friends. We've not necessarily ever met, but, you know, we share ideas, that kind of a thing. So it's kind of fun to do that. If you're going to do a video or something like that, use a thumbnail that conveys a single idea or emotion to kind of convey the topic of your video. You don't necessarily need to restate the title in the thumbnail. But, you know, if you're making a video about a particular radio, put a picture of that radio in there so that it's on topic and people kind of know that, oh yeah, okay, that's going to be about that radio. Goofy faces attract attention, but also turn people off. It's kind of a form of clickbait. There's been some studies out there, especially with YouTube, that, you know, kind of these goofy faces that we all see, it gets your attention, but it doesn't necessarily add anything to the video. So try to avoid that. That's my suggestion anyway. And then avoid the clickbait, where if you put a picture in a thumbnail that's completely unrelated to the video, that turns people off too. I try to respond to as many comments as I can on my videos. So, you know, I post a video and somebody might comment on that. I try to reply to them and give them the courtesy that they gave to me to, you know, ask me a question or comment on the video. Create a unified brand that's used across all your social media platforms. So I personally really only do YouTube, but if you're somebody that really wants to get into this, try to keep a common theme. And, you know, if you're going to do YouTube and other sites, keep everything kind of the same across them so that people know it's you. And then participate in online forums, Facebook groups, and things like that. It's always helpful to kind of build that community and also, you know, let people know you're out there, that kind of a thing. Let's see, can you make money on YouTube? And this is kind of the big sticking point with some people. And the answer is yes, but don't expect to get rich. In other words, don't do it for the money. You know, the money is nice because it can help pay for computers, cameras, software. You know, that stuff all costs money. So I caution people that, you know, if you're going to get into this, don't spend more than, you know, you think you're going to make or whatever, that kind of a thing, because you're not going to make a ton of money. But being able to monetize videos and other posts is a nice way to offset the costs for all that stuff. In order to make money, at least on YouTube, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours. I'm not sure what the thresholds are on other sites. Or if you can, I don't even know if all sites monetize, you know, places like Instagram, things like that, I think do, but I don't know if others do. One thing to keep in mind here, this is kind of the real sticky point. A licensed ham cannot make a ham radio transmission that has pecuniary interest. So videos showing you transmitting shouldn't be monetized on your channel. If you're a monetized channel. If you're not, then you don't have to worry about that. Or if you're just posting something on Facebook or whatever, but if you're monetized, make sure you're mindful of that. YouTube may and most likely will run ads on videos that the creator chooses not to monetize. So for instance, if you make a video that you're transmitting in and you don't put ads on it, somebody watching it may still see ads because YouTube recently changed their policy and will run an ad on that and keep 100% of the profits from that ad. You won't get anything. So it's still legal. It's just YouTube's profiting, you're not. Let's see, you may be able to keep or borrow free gear or products. That's really limited to kind of the bigger ham radio channels and that kind of a thing. I've never been approached by any manufacturers or anything like that, giving me free radios. And I don't know that I would take one even if they did. Many hams do not trust influencer reviews because they are inherently biased. Now, I have reviewed other products, not ham radio related. And it's hard to be objective about something that somebody gave you. You don't want to necessarily say anything bad about it, kind of a thing. But I feel like doubly so within ham radio. This is more of a hobby than anything else. So we want to try and stay as unbiased as we can with that. Cameras and gear can get expensive. Start with what you already have and build from there. If you're going to start off, don't run out and spend thousands of dollars and then, get disappointed because things didn't take off the way that you wanted to. You will get negative comments. Don't take them personally, but do pay attention to them and try to learn from them. There's always some little nugget of information in there that you can pull out, even if somebody is really being a jerk in there. There's usually something in there that's worth paying attention to. Vlogging and blogging will help build public speaking and writing skills. At least that's what I've found. I'm normally sort of a reserved kind of person and kind of shy, but since I've been doing this, it's really helped me in those regards, especially at work and things like that. When I have to give presentations there, it's not such a chore anymore. Explaining something you have learned to others will help you retain that information. I found that, and that's actually something that I learned from my Elmer, Don, W1UPH, way back when. And it kind of just, goes without saying, I guess, if you're, trying to break something down to show something to somebody, either in a blog post or a video or something, it helps you understand it better too. And have fun with it. Creating and sharing ham radio content can be fun and rewarding aspect of the hobby. One of the best things, like I said, I'm just kind of a hack here. I just do whatever, but it's always cool when somebody gives me a comment or sends me an email and says, hey, I really found this useful and you gave me a good idea. I'm not necessarily going to do it the same way you did, but it gave me an idea to try something. So, and I guess that's it. Any questions or discussions on that?
No questions at all from anybody?
What's your YouTube channel?
It's called 741, all spelled out, the word.
Okay.
And where does the name of that come from, Rob?
It's actually a tribute to my dad. I started the channel not long after he passed away, and he was on my mind when I started it. So
the 741 has something to do with him?
Yeah. I can't get into too much detail about it.
Okay, I'm just curious.
But yeah.
So Rob, you've been YouTubing for, it seems like 11 years. You said 2009. Is that right?
Yeah, something like that, I think. Yep.
So, I mean, there's been a lot of changes in YouTube over the years. What do you think has been the biggest change that's sort of affected the way you do things over that period of time with YouTube?
That's kind of a tough question because I'm sort of a person that just sort of does my own thing, regardless of what's what. Like I said, I started the channel not so much with a focus on ham radio, although that's become kind of a big part of it because people seem to like it. And I enjoy ham radio too. So when I'm doing ham radio stuff, I feature that on the channel. So probably the biggest thing that I've seen over the years is that when I started it, there really wasn't a lot of ham radio content out there. But over time, there seems to be a lot more of it, especially in the last few years. And, and that's good and bad, I think, because it's a little harder to find something unique to talk about now when it comes to ham radio, because somebody's already made a video about it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't do it, because, all of us here on the meeting could post a YouTube video about the same topic, but would all have slightly different information about it. But there does come a point where there's a little bit of an overload, I think. So maybe that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, we all have different perspectives. One of the things that, I don't know, I guess one of the things that sort of attracted me to your channel was just the sincerity. One of the things that I think a lot of people probably feel this way. I can't stand people that do equipment reviews that have had the equipment for the afternoon and then and
Yeah.
smash that like button so you get more of this not very well thought out content.
Yeah, there seems to be a little bit of that. And I don't necessarily want to, say anything negative about it, because, people are doing what they want to do or whatever and find enjoyment in or benefit in. But yeah, there seems to be, when a new radio comes out for ham radio, there seems to be, this race to kind of be the first one to talk about it or whatever. That's just not what I do. I don't have any problem with it. It's just not what I do. If I had a brand new radio, I'd probably put it on the channel, but again, I don't know that I'd necessarily run out and talk about it the first day, but.
What I've seen a lot on these YouTube videos, a lot of these guys do these unboxing videos. I mean, what's the point? I like to have a video where if you got a new radio out and give it a few months or so and do a good review. And if you find out some details about the radio, hidden menus and things like that, or tips to have a shortcut of getting somewhere on that radio instead of what it shows in the manual, put that out. And I've seen a few good YouTube videos of fellas that were doing that on ham radio. And I like those the best. But some of the other ones, like the unboxing thing, I just don't get.
I'm with you, actually. I like those types of videos too. There's a guy, you probably have watched his stuff, Bob Nagy. I think he does what you're talking about. There's a few others too. But to kind of play devil's advocate on that, I don't like the unboxing stuff either. It's not my thing, but there's plenty of people out there that do like it. So, the people that are making the unboxing videos are catering to the people that like it. And that's fine. I let them do that or what, I don't want to say I let them do that, but that's their thing. That's what they do. And that's okay, because people want to see it, I guess. I don't necessarily like it, but that doesn't mean it's bad.
Excellent. Okay. Anybody have any other questions for Rob?
Rob, do people just find your channel by accident and then go there more often, or how does it work?
Yeah, in my case, yes, because I don't go out of my way to promote my channel. Kind of like I talked about in the slides. I find other YouTubers or go on other social media sites and I find other people that I'm interested in, and I might start commenting to them or whatever, and we kind of talk to each other or whatever online, but in a public forum, and people will see that. But yeah, for the most part, people are looking for a particular topic, and maybe I've made a video about it and they see my channel. And if they like what they see, they stick around. If not, they watch the video and move on, whatever kind of a thing. I sort of let nature take its course with that kind of a thing. But there are YouTubers out there, or not even just YouTubers, but social media in general, that, they will promote their stuff, their brand or whatever, to get eyes on their content. And again, I'm sort of indifferent to that. It's neither good nor bad. It just is kind of a thing. And that's the way the system works.
Okay. Any other questions for Rob? Cool. Rob, thank you very much. Great talk. Lots of information. And we'll definitely get, besides the video, will be up on the HCRA website and sometime in the next week or so, and up on our YouTube channel. And if you can get me the slideshow too, we'll get that up on the website for people that might be interested in following further and looking up some of those links or doing some of the stuff themselves and having some guidelines to follow and all. But great job. Appreciate you joining us tonight. And hopefully we'll see more of you too, between local fox hunts and other local things happening. And if you got nothing to do on December 6th, join us for the holiday party. Bring your XYL and come and join us.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate that. And yeah, I like the Steaming Tender. We go up there about at least once a year. But
Yeah, it's one of our favorite restaurants too. Okay, so let's see, moving on here. If you guys haven't been reading Zero Beat, Ken has been doing a phenomenal job with Zero Beat. It's been 25, 26 pages long. It's filled with all sorts of information, neat stuff, funny stuff, great things, and lots of contributors. And so if you're not reading Zero Beat, you should be. You can go back to hcra.org and go to the Zero Beat page and click on the issues that you want to read. In fact, you can go all the way back to 1948. Most of those between 1948 and now are online with a few gaps in there, but you can see the differences through the years of how the club has changed, how the members have changed, and what you're getting now. So if you have anything you want to contribute, I know Ken, KD1KU is always looking for contributions. The deadline to get something to him for the following month Zero Beat is the 15th of the month. Ken, are you still here, Ken?
Yep.
Yeah. Do you have
I'm
any
here.
comments or anything you want to add for about Zero Beat?
No, just basically, like you said, about the 15th or so of the month is we try to set for a deadline. And
Okay, great.
I'm going to try to get Foxbox 1 out there within the next few days.
Good.
I'll watch for announcements.
Oh, maybe I can actually find the time to go hunting for it for a change. Okay, great. I'd like to know if there's any other announcements going on. Does anybody have anything they want to add, whether it be club stuff or outside club stuff or other things going on? Any other announcements? Okay, no other announcements. Again, don't forget the holiday party, December 6th. You can sign up on the hcra.org Facebook page. I'm sorry, the hcra.org website page, and information's in the latest Zero Beat also. Ray, any section news or anything you want to add?
Not at this time. The right now I'm getting things about the league. Actually starting to get stuff out on club-oriented subjects. They are going to be putting out a new newsletter, similar to the ARRL letter and the contest update. If you go to your profile on the league's website, you should see the entry for the clubs at ARRL.org, and it's already checked off. So if you all want to opt out, all you have to do is uncheck it. But these are going to be things that the league has been picking up as far as news from the clubs. That's why, Larry, I mentioned that.
Yeah, I had Ken forward that stuff to Mike.
Yep. And if anybody has any club related questions or anything like that, or if they need some resources, something like that, just go to clubs@ARRL.org. And there is a staff member there that will be happy to help you out with that. And of course, if not, there's other people there that will. So yeah, they're starting to make some rumblings up there as far as mentoring and clubs and all that. So hopefully this is a sign of a good trend that's going to be happening.
Excellent. Sounds good. Sounds good. And keep up the good work. And obviously, you have been unanimously re-voted in to your position, which is good.
Landslide victory.
Excellent. Excellent. We've got some great meetings planned through the end of June. You can go to Zero Beat and see the latest issues and see the latest meetings and everything. And one last call. If anybody have any other announcements or anything to add? And nope, we will not be having a meeting next month. Will be the holiday party will replace the meeting, and our next official meeting will be in January. I'd like everybody to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And hopefully we'll see you not only on the air. I know the CW SSB ARL sweepstakes is this weekend. And we'll be talking more as it gets closer in Zero Beat and the HCRA Facebook page and the email reflector about the ARL 10-meter contest the second weekend in December, which is always an exciting thing. That's sideband and CW, and it's one that we enter individually and credit the club too. It's been a big time HCRA club activity, and hopefully if the sunspot cycles wake up like they did this past weekend, 10 meters should be hopping for December, and maybe we'll be lucky. It'll be the bands will be in good conditions, and it'll be easy to work a couple hundred stations without any effort with 100 watts and a wire. So anyways, thank you all for joining us tonight. Everybody have a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and have a great weekend. Have a good night.
7-3, everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
7-3. Thanks again for having me.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
See you guys
Bye now.
later.
Bye. Thank you again.